What's up? What's up? What's up? Good morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon, whatever time you're listening in. Appreciate you listening into this following bonus content, which is a little bit different from our normal success learned from failure. It's a conversation that I had with professionals that I respect and work with, and it just was a conversation on the phone that kept leading to saying, hey, we need to document this. All of us are professionals in design and some write. The conversation is featuring James Aravena of Beakman Automation Group, doing window automations for high-end houses out in the Hamptons and things like that. It's featuring Lisa Marie Meisler, a commercial realtor out here in the Lehigh Valley. And it's featuring her daughter, Jaden Lyon, who has an interior design degree and has done the photography that's featured in the beginning of this episode. We speak about how design moves the soul and how in many different mediums, people that don't even have to appreciate design can benefit from the fact that something was thought about. We explore the multi-generational business of Beakman Automation that started with immigrating to the U.S., and Frank built a business that grew into an international business. We speak about how marketing and things just move people to action. And we promote an event which has been postponed. This has been pre-recorded, but it's for Exodus Road and preventing sex trafficking here in the Lehigh Valley. Lisa's Strength and Love Foundation is still accepting donations through strengthandlove.org. It's live. You can donate to Exodus Road. And we speak a bit in this conversation. So it is along the lines of what my listenership would enjoy, although it is slightly off theme. So we're going to call this a bonus episode in between our hiatus, and we'll return soon. Thank you for listening. What's up? What's up? What's up? Good morning, good evening, good night. Tony Ortiz here with I Will Not Lose podcast, and we're doing a little bit of bonus content for you. I have some people in my network, really, really big heavy hitters, both in business, both in design. So we have a few experts that are going to speak kind of about how design speaks to the soul, while it's important. And it's really just a conversation. We've had these conversations over the phone and they go on for half an hour. We said, hey, let's put this together. So we're going to go around and kind of introduce ourselves. We are in the 3 West Broad building, beautiful downtown Bethlehem. Have people joining us from New York. So this is good. We'll start ladies first and go around this way.
All right. So I'm Jaden Lyon. I do photography. I do interior design. I just recently got my degree in interior design. That's what I do.
Awesome.
Hi, Lisa Meisler. I'm a commercial real estate agent in Lehigh Valley. Jaden's my daughter. So this is my greatest accomplishment so far. Her and her brother. She's got a twin brother. I actually rep the building that we are in, and we can discuss that a little bit later on. And then you'll be introducing James, but James is one of my clients as well.
Yeah. Thanks for the short intro there, Lisa. But I'm James Aravena. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and we're in a whole bunch of different businesses, but we're doing a lot of interior design work. We have a company based out of Long Island where we make custom furniture, window treatments, things like that. So, we're deep and dirty into the inner workings of design. And then, like Lisa mentioned, we're in real estate as well. Let's get into it. There's plenty to talk about, so I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Problem, man. And it's a family business, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Why don't you go on that for a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, there's a big story that goes along with it. But so basically the family started it about 70 years ago, just literally a garage upholstery shop, fixing people's chairs, for $1 or $2 here and there. And, eventually it grew. And then Frank, the owner of the company, he basically took it over from his father and really scaled it into something really great that had really great connections with interior designers. And, he really just did that by networking, really, going to things like this, doing podcasts, hanging out with the right crowd, going to interior design events, just being kind, being nice, showing the good quality work and, growing it into, a great big company doing work, all over the country now and even, nationwide and worldwide. So it's great. Family companies are great. when you stick with family, it turns out, everyone gets involved. You got the mom in there. She's sewing. She's 80 something years old. She's in there sewing in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. You go there, she's screaming at 6 o'clock in the morning. Then there's me, helping out with the window treatments and this and that. And it's really a beautiful thing. Family businesses are, I think, the most important thing that we have to keep alive in America, because that's where, generational wealth comes, number one. And also just the experiences, the love of working in a business together there's nothing like that,
Yeah, I'm sure there's ups and downs, but like you said, it's a beautiful thing. And to think less than 70 years, so one, not even 2 lifetimes ago,
right,
he built something from the stuff I like to say that they don't teach you in school. As we spoke with Lisa knows, we've been networking for over a decade at this point, seeing each other around, have a lot of mutual friends. And in our conversations, Jaden, I said, look, this is key. People hire who they know, right, like, and trust.
Yep.
There's a lot of people with a camera, but they're going to want you at the event, and go from there. So that's cool. Then the name of the business?
It's Home Interiors by Anthony Giaramita. And then my sector of the business, which is the motorized shades and kitchen cabinetry, is the Beakman Group. And we'll put some tags or something. Yeah.
We'll have some time to drop this. Now, what I think is interesting is design itself. It'll always be in demand. Like, no matter what generation, even in the future, no matter how minimalist we go, there'll be somebody in charge of aesthetics. You walk into this room, for those that are watching in video, there's all sorts of chartreuse and white chairs, plastic chairs. It's very modern, and it has a clean feel. We're at a nice white table with teal and chartreuse chairs and a big rainbow logo. That's the first thing I noticed. So we got that in the shot. I don't know, Lisa, what is that?
Yeah, that's a Power School logo. So a quick history of this building. I rep this building, and Power School used to own the building. They occupied the majority of the building, and then they sold it to Larkin Associates. It was just prior to COVID. And as people started pulling away from the office sector and doing more remote work, they didn't need to occupy the entire building any longer. So we start taking space back and leasing the space out, redeveloping the building in some sense with the space, because it was all office space. And I actually decided to redevelop the front portion of it on Broad Street to make that all retail space. And so Larkin had actually come in. I just took James on a little tour when he got here. When you first walked into the building, before they renovated it, it looked like you're walking onto a Brady Bunch set, I tell people, because it's very 70s. It was bright orange, and there was like these ugly escalators in the center section there, and
where the walls.
Yeah, where the cafe is out there, where it's like all glass walls now. That was an open air deli. It was pretty funky. Yeah. It was fun.
How long ago was that?
I mean, it was pre-COVID. It was kind of like during COVID that they were renovating. So it took COVID the renovations would not have taken as long. It took much longer than we expected. So they renovated all the common area space to make it more of a Class A space. Put the elevators in. Yeah. And then as we take the space back, those spaces get renovated. We're not really looking to put money into space that we don't know what's going to go in there. Right. So funny, quick story short, long story short, so there's steak and seals in the building. I brought them down from Jim Thorpe area. Prior to them going into that space, we didn't know what to do with it. It was its own private little office space. It's over 5,000 square feet. And it was very old. So we just didn't know what to do with it. And it didn't market well. It didn't look good. And I wanted to just let it go. I told my landlord, I'm like, oh, just let it go. Let's see what we're putting in there. Without my knowledge, he decided to renovate the whole space into a Class A office space. So they were almost finished with it when he called and told me that. I said, why are you doing that? I don't know what's going to go in there. He's like, it's cool. It's cool. As soon as it's done, you can go in, take great pictures. Like, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. I said, okay. So a hot minute after they finished doing that, I called him and I said, so I have this restaurant group that really likes that space. Can I show it to them? And he kind of giggled and he said, you know what, go ahead and show it. Because he said, like, what are your thoughts on this? I said, I think it'd be great. It'll be great for the building. It'll be a really good draw. So I showed it to him and they loved it. They decided to take it. And Rob was just like, hand on head, my guys are going to kill me because now they had to rip everything out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, but it's better to do that than not have it sold, I guess.
well, you know, and it's a great space. The restaurant does great. My daughter works there. My son worked there as well when he was still home before he ran away to college.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a really great space. It's a great restaurant. They do very, very good business, and it has been a really good draw to the building. So it's one of the best decisions I made for this building.
It's excellent. Do you remember Style, the hair salon? I'm going to tie this back to interior design. So it was a hair salon in this main...
I had heard about it, but I'm not that familiar with the building prior to me repping it.
Right. I didn't think you were repping it back then. They were one of my clients. We did some advertising, and although it was a hair salon, it was a hangout. It was a lounge. They
It's a beautiful
served
space.
champagne.
That's where, the GSA's in there now. It's a beautiful space.
And they had a big giant mirror. She told me it was thousands of dollars just to ship, just to get the one big mirror there. But you could get your hair done or whatever. I didn't get skin things. I just hung out to research for the market. But it just ties back to how important. If somebody's going to spend thousands of dollars to ship a mirror, and now 10 years later, we're talking about it, and I remember that white mirror, the target market is not somebody who just wants a chair. Like, you can put 4 stands together and a plank and make a stool or a chair, but to have these ones that have a groove, look separate, have some color to it, you know, it really speaks to the human soul and what we like, what makes us feel good.
Absolutely. Yeah, just adding to that, I mean, you could build $1 million houses, you could build $5 million houses. If it's not properly designed at the end and you're not putting in the right finishings, it could really destroy the value. No matter if you put, you know, $13 sheetrock or you put, you know, the $30 new sheetrock they're coming out with. If you don't put the right finishes in, it kills it, because like you said, you know, the human mind is all about the soul, the feel, you know, you remember about that mirror. People remember about a piece of furniture that's been in their history for generations. I'm sure you guys have family members where there's that one couch, they don't want to throw it out. It's been like 100 years. Mm-hmm. There's probably like big dents in them from people sitting them over time, but they don't want to throw them out. You know, furniture is kind of that one thing that hits home for a lot of people, you know, reminds them of home. And, you know, getting a good quality piece, you know, especially something custom, you're going to be paying for it. But in the long run, you know, that will last you 100 years, you know, 150 years even. You know, not like something you get on Wayfair, right? That'll, you know, it'll be gone in 2 years. You know, someone sits on it the wrong way. There was actually I had an old bed. It was from Wayfair, I think. And I just jumped on it one day and the whole thing just split in half. So I was like, all right, never mind. We're just gonna build it out of actual wood and not, you know, Formica or whatever. But
it's funny.
You know, it's like, it's incredible because these pieces, like, you know, they'll last a long time. We've had chairs come in from 1850, like we're talking like years ago.
Oh my gosh.
And we like refurbished them, and the wood, it's like, there's no joint. It's a solid structure. Like
they made things so much different back then, including houses.
The entire chair
seriously,
out of a piece of wood. It's like the amount of hours you could spend on that. You could just imagine hours and hours and hours. And the piece holds value. I mean, you know, some of these things are worth thousands of dollars just because it has history behind it. It has love and craftsmanship behind it. And I think that's what
and it's scarce.
Right.
You know,
that too. Yeah. And that goes back to even like finding craftsmen. You know, it's tough. People don't get into those trades anymore. I think you mentioned that before. You know, there's not that many people going into things like that anymore. A lot of people, you know, want the, you know, the business life, going into, you know, working in an office and things like that. Less people are going into, you know, very unique craftsman jobs. That's mainly because a lot of businesses gone overseas. Everyone gets stuff from China now. That's just the way it is. But we're really trying to make our mark as an American brand. You know, stuff made in America that lasts. And I think that's really the main thing. I mean, we should all try and buy, from family businesses, from local businesses.
Highly agree.
Get things that are, you're helping out your community, you're getting quality stuff, and the name and the people that made the things that, you use every single day. So,
and hope your kids will appreciate it,
Right.
Usually once you're gone, they appreciate it more. But I think for the people listening that don't understand design and just say, yeah, I go to a nice space. So when you go to a nice restaurant, just a couple ways design can affect. I mean, like if you go to, you're driving, you're traveling, you pull over on a highway, you see a diner, there's leather bound menus, a big fish tank with colorful cichlids. You're like, I don't even know if I'm trying to get a $10 meal, this probably isn't the place. Now they could have the cheap price, but it changes your whole aesthetic, whether
Right.
you appreciate it or know the science or like Jaden have a degree in it. Yes, you can get a degree. There's more to it than just picking colors and moving stuff around. Like there's a whole psychology. But you don't have to know that to appreciate it. It's
Right.
like good music. You don't have to know how to make it. Go on some of that. Like, the stuff you learned in school is not new. Like,
Yeah, like it's so funny because a lot of people always say like, oh, why do you get that? Like, why are you getting a degree in interior design? Like so many people question me on that because they don't think it's something that like you should go to school for, I guess. But you kind of like, you learn like the history, you learn a lot of history of interior design and architecture. I took a lot of architecture classes because you need to understand how everything works and how everything's put together to then think about the design. And you'd have to learn about like all the like, so you need to know like fire codes and like all that stuff if you're doing like commercial
Right. Yep.
design.
I didn't even think of that.
So you have to learn about a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
which I didn't really like go into detail of learning that stuff. They just told us a little bit
Yeah.
and told us that we're gonna eventually have to know that.
Yeah. That picks up over time. Like, you walk
Yeah.
in a place, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, so you have to think about a lot more than people think, like just, oh, I want to pick a color for that wall and this chair and that's it. Like you're learning a lot more. And then like I did a lot of residential work for like my classes. So we did the kitchens, bathrooms, stuff like that. And another thing you have to really like learn about and think about is just like the flow of your design. So when you're like thinking about a kitchen, how it's going to function and think about, oh, if you're going to put the stove here, you need it close to the sink, but you also need the fridge nearby because they're going to be working in those areas, in the kitchen.
Insane.
So it's all like, you think about a lot of stuff that normally you wouldn't think about for interior design,
And interior designers are not just color pickers too. I mean, there's, interior designers take measurements, interior designers
using scale,
project
ratios.
managers. I mean, realistically, the client hired the interior designer, right? And if the contractor's not doing the right work or they make a mistake or something's not right, something was measured wrong, the client goes back to the interior designer because they're the one like, it's weird. You're not just picking colors, you're coordinating the entire project. You're making sure things get to where it needs to go. You're ordering stuff.
Logistics.
You're picking a tile. You're making sure that the tile comes on time, this and that. It's much tougher than a lot of people seem. I think the people at home, maybe that's something they could pick up today. Interior design is much harder than it seems, especially when, most interior designers, they like going back to the same people. Like the interior designers that we work with, for example, like those are our biggest clients. Like we have 30 interior designers, 40 interior designers that we pick up work from every year because they come back to us. They know that we understand their process. And then we can just coordinate much faster and they can have an easier time dealing with the client and picking and then we'll just let it, the client doesn't care about the measurements or what wood you're putting in. They just want to know, what color is the fabric, what does the design look like? And then I just want it. Most of these people don't have time to, dilly-dally around with contractors and stuff like that.
They hire experts for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
And, it's interesting because, I work mainly in commercial real estate. Recently, for some reason, after I haven't had a residential sale in 7 years. I've been doing a little bit this week and under agreement with 2 houses, which is strange. But it's funny because, I think that most people can understand that when you walk into a house, like if you're looking for houses, right? 2 main things you're looking at, bathrooms and kitchens.
Right.
Because that's the most expensive thing to do if it's not something that you like, it doesn't work for you, or if it's really outdated. So, and it does make a difference. And then like even in your commercial space, and we'll take this building, for example, the amount of work that went into that space where Steak and Steel is, that's $1 million fit out.
Of course.
People don't think they're like, oh my gosh, $1 million to, you're renting a space. But yeah, it's a restaurant. There's a lot that goes.
Restaurants are very expensive.
Yeah, a lot that goes into a restaurant.
Very, very
and, there's so many things that they have to consider. And right down to like the acoustics. I was in a restaurant the other day and I turned to my friend. I'm like, the acoustics are terrible here. Let's leave because we're screaming at each other. Yeah, I don't want to be in a restaurant screaming at my friend that's sitting next to me, or the charcuterie shop that's on the front of the building here. That was all old office space. It was all tiny little rooms. We had to, everything had to be demoed and just taken down to a vanilla box, and then they had to design it. So it just goes deeper than most people think it does, and people have a vision of this is what I want it to look like. They have no idea how to get there.
No. And
so they have like my charcuterie board place. She had a color scheme. She had like a country theme. This is she was going on the internet and showing us pictures. This is kind of what I'm thinking.
Pinterest and stuff. Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, when people hire me as an expert to design or walk, it's like people look at that P right there, and it's like, okay, it's a P. It's also a single point. So for that logo, the pen never leaves the paper when you trace it. When you go to engrave that or even put that on a piece of vinyl, they cut that out of one piece of vinyl. Nobody thinks the little decision you make of disconnecting the piece. I'm working on a car emblem right now. And we said, oh man, if it's going to mount as a single piece, it has to connect. Otherwise you're mounting 4 pieces. Right. But the beauty of it is when somebody walks into a room, your brain subconsciously knows whether or not you feel safe. Like it knows about panels in here. A whole architect engineer had to think, how is this building going to last for 100, 200 years? Like, how can it not fall? And I love that as I keep going back to the human experience, but you trust somebody with something like your home, your logo, a commercial property, interior design, even photography, the photography that you do, you can't mess it up. So there's photographing just small events and stuff. But, if you have a wedding, like when royalty gets married, it's not like they just go to Craigslist or, figure somebody out and go for the cheapest bidder. Like, you need to have dealt with that pressure and you just keep moving up and up. Do you think your grandfather, I think you said Frank, or great grandfather, do you think he was he just a craftsman?
Yeah.
You guys immigrated, right?
Yeah. Frank and his father, Anthony Giaramita, they're both born in Italy, in Sicily. And they came here with nothing, basically. And, they had a little business in Sicily. And then, once they got on the boat and came over here, they just basically continued doing it. And my parents, the same thing. I mean, that's the beauty of, coming here to America and being able to take the opportunity that's in front of you with all these different choices. I mean, you come here, the interior design world is huge just because there's so many spaces being built. But I mean, just cutting back, I guess about my family. So, I mean, my parents are immigrants too. They came here in the 90s with nothing. Basically, my parents came with, they met here actually. So they came separately, but they both basically came here for a better life, and they came here and with nothing and worked extremely, extremely hard. And that's kind of where my motivation comes from into, building businesses up and doing things like this and trying to make more friends and network is just because I see the way my parents worked, without the language in the back of their pocket, without the connections in the back of their pocket. Thank God now I have so many connections through my family, through friends and stuff like that. But when my parents came here, they had nothing, they didn't even know where to start. And fortunately they worked hard and built themselves up. And, I don't know. I guess not sure how that relates to interior design, but
no, because you have to care about it.
Exactly. It's the start of the, like I was going back to before, like family business, I guess, there's always a good industry with construction because construction interior designer, one in one most of the time, because there's always work to be done. Even what you mentioned before with restaurants, the $1 million to renovate a restaurant, that's not off the ball at all. That's very true in most cases. And, you got to look at a restaurant, not only at its food, but like you said, you want to feel safe when you come into the space. When you go, you can get sushi at Nobu, and then you can get sushi at, just your local shop in town, and you might be getting served the exact same fish from the same distributor. But what are you getting different? You're getting a different service. You're getting a different feel.
Yeah,
you sit on the chair, you're like, this chair it's nice,
Yep.
The tables are nice. They're not wobbling over. You got beautiful lighting. There's beautiful displays that they put in restaurants. And that's what attracts the customer. That's why you pay, maybe 2-3 times the price that you would somewhere else.
There's some restaurants in the Valley that definitely are a step above the rest as far as like the ambiance and where you are.
Right.
And it brings in a different group of people. And it's, you hear people talking about it, they're like, oh, have you been to such and such place? It's so beautiful. I love hanging out there because it feels good.
When something's new, people are going to flock to it regardless. But I won't name them because they're not in business now, but I did branding for a high-end restaurant out here. And everything from, when we were doing our market research and showing up there and hanging out and meeting the staff, there was like foie gras. Like I never had that. That's just not, I didn't know how to pronounce it. I didn't know what it was. And they just bring out multiple slabs of it. And after we take the pictures, they're like, eat it. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I see why every week or every month you re-pull all your taps because you don't want mold in the lines affecting the taste. Like obviously taste is big in restaurants, but the LEDs and the lights that he did to be able to fade and everything was not cheap, and even when you get into lighting, it's like, well, what's the difference between the $800 one and the $120 one or something, Right. But I think it's amazing to go down the deep holes. This was not specifically about interior design. I think it's good. We touched on networking and things like that. And just meeting people that care. When you get to, I don't want to say it's a snooty thing. Like when you have access to good food, you don't want McDonald's. Like people want better things. And even when you get into taste, I was talking to somebody who said, I want to go around the world and taste things. I said, you have sommelier training, and he didn't know what that was. And I'm like, yeah, at level 5, you're pretty much tasting for the king. Like we've trusted experts in telling us what food is good, what's not, from an objective, this is from this region, it's good at this time. And it's just nuts how deep. I don't know if you guys are like me, but some days I'll just sit there and I'm thinking
love food, so this is right up my alley.
Oh, yeah. No, it's like just how deep it goes. Like my background is in bartending, not so much cooking, but bartending taught me to cook because it's flavors that go together. Like yes, taste is extremely subjective, and what tastes good to some is based on your culture and all sorts of stuff. But whoever came up with peanut butter and jelly, I don't know if it's the chemistry or the psychology, but they, like certain foods just work well. So you do like more on the higher end, but if you would do like a apple ginger or like a peach apricot, or do something where you're mixing things, like creme brulee is a great example where you take some skill to torch it. And somebody went down the rabbit hole, said, this is how we're going to make and do this. And there's probably somebody who somebody's mom can make phenomenal food and you love it, but she doesn't plate it and present it like they will in Michelin star. There's a reason they could give you small portions.
I eat dinner every day on a paper plate.
Oh my God, I was just going to go to the paper plate thing because there was some Facebook group that I'm in, and people sometimes will be like, hey, this is what I'm having for dinner tonight. And inevitably it's on a paper plate and it looks horrendous.
Right.
And I'm looking at it going, why are you doing that? So even at home, and Jaden can attest to this, especially when her brother's around because he's a big cook, everything needs to be plated properly. Right. And it just, it looks beautiful. You know, we plate everything, we present it, and then we sit down and we enjoy it. I think I enjoy it more because it is aesthetically pleasing, right? You know?
Yeah, if it looks good, you like want to eat it more, exactly. You know, and then you enjoy it more.
Instead of just throwing it on a paper plate, James.
Exactly. And even just giving I'm even worse. I'll do peanut butter and jellies on a paper towel if I'm like, if I'm really crushing, like if I'm like, okay, the only reason I'm eating is because my brain's using a lot of protein because I'm designing. I don't want to stop.
Or at least it's a paper towel. I eat over the sink sometimes.
Sometimes you have to, you know?
My mom doesn't even sit down when she eats. Like I'll be sitting at the table. I'm like, Mom, come sit down. She's like, no, I got to wash the dishes first. And I'm like, come on. I'm like, I'm almost done eating. And then she's just sitting there eating while she's doing the dishes and cleaning and this and that. I'm like, I don't know. My mom's crazy. She's always running around.
Yeah.
She never sits down. I don't know why.
But even just like serving that napkin underneath the knife and fork so that somebody doesn't have to get up, or having the drink on the table with empty cups so that you can pass it.
Yeah, we use linens at home. We don't use paper. I hate when I go places and people bring out paper napkins and I just kind of look at it.
Yeah, I don't like going to restaurants and there's paper napkins.
Oh, they're the worst. Those are the really thin ones. They're the worst.
Yeah, because you immediately think like, oh, this restaurant's being cheap. You know, the food's probably cheap.
Well, you also need 10 of those because they're paper thin.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I can't. If I'm going to use a paper napkin, it has to be like a paper towel or something like that. But I didn't think of getting linens. That'd be interesting. I did like fine serving for a while, and I always say it's great because like without design, I said this before. Am I going to die the most famous designer? I don't know. Maybe I'll have some play regionally, definitely not world, but I've tasted food I wouldn't have been able to taste. I have stories of a $10,000 to ship mirror. And, you know, it's come up a couple times where I'm just able to tie the conversation back to a client where it's like, and I may have said this to you when we first met, if you can get into accounting, like right out of school or early, you're literally researching other businesses and knowing what works. That's how I know I don't ever want to get into the restaurant industry.
Accounting is very important.
Yeah.
Very, very important.
And it gives you an idea, it lets you know. Same with graphic design. You have to research so many different businesses and services. And then you find out, like, just found out yesterday, there's a company, we lost a bid because they do very specific types of contracting. Like it's like a chimney HVAC company. So they only deal with chimneys and only a specific type of chimneys on there. They do the marketing for the contractors that service that niche. So it's like you'll see all these marketing companies where they're like, we only do interior designers. And you'd have to expect they have more research and stuff there, but sometimes it's just a niche you get into, you know?
What do you guys think about marketing companies in general? I feel like there's a lot of mixed opinions about them. Maybe that's a good thing that we could touch on. I know in our business, our marketing is really word of mouth for the most part. I mean, once you're doing work for a lot of these high rollers, you know, things just get around, people come back for other work. You know, we had one client, they're like, all right, I want you guys to do this house today in the Hamptons. And then, okay, next year we're going to do my house in Florida. And then the year after we're going to do mine in London. I was like, okay, you know, we'll do whatever you got to do. But
yeah, you don't have to market at that point.
Of course, like it's just, you know, but marketing is definitely important for a lot of aspects. I mean, real estate, there's, you know, people doing cold calling and this and that. I guess that's
marketing is like one of the biggest benefits to real estate.
Right,
you have
when you're selling a house, obviously, you got to market it the right way.
It's a whole other rabbit hole, just like every other profession we talked about. Yeah. And it's constantly changing. You know,
yeah. I mean, we always had so I've been with a couple different firms. When I was with Colliers International, they had an in-house marketing team, which was really nice because anything I needed, I just sent it over to them.
Tell them they'll do everything.
Yeah, because they do all the OMs and everything, and we have to have stuff like that in commercial. When I moved to another firm, they were a little bit smaller boutique firm. They had just like so-and-so in the office down the hall can do that for you. And I looked at it, I said, it's not good enough. I need more than that. And they hired a marketing firm to come in and start, you know, like doing the commercial aspect of our stuff. And then, they were working with other things with them as well. It was very beneficial.
Well, you can have a small in-house team. That's typically where I position myself to be a 1099 on a few teams. So I've seen how a lot of different marketing companies do it. And unless you have I'd say 40 to 50 specialists in different areas, you can't do all of marketing. My specialty for one of my contracts is Google Ads. And I'll tie this back to how everything's changing. 5-6 years ago, maybe even 10, 88% of searches all through the internet were through Google. What do you think that number's at now?
I'm sure it's much higher.
No, 99%, almost everything.
Way less. They lost a ton of market share.
Really?
Yeah, because this counts Facebook searches, Instagram, TikTok, Bing, all internet searches. People used to only go to Google. Even ChatGPT took a ton of them, but they hold about 18%. And they're
18%. Wow.
Wow, that's interesting.
That's how crazy it dropped.
Wow.
And people still spend a ton of money on Google Ads, but think about it. If ChatGPT gives you the right answer,
Google Ads are crazy
expensive.
You could spend $1,000 in a week and get 0 hits out of it if you're not doing it the right way.
More than that. Way more than that. No, you're right. And that's something I specialize in. Why I say it's important is I've worked on accounts where they make 1,300% return on every dollar 13 times. So 1,300% on their investment. And they've scaled up to the point where they're putting, a lot of money into it. Now, a lot of their traffic, brand awareness, and they're big enough that other people are bidding on their name. That's something you don't think about. It's illegal to use their headline, but you can bid on a competitor's name. And if you bid higher, you'll show up above whatever it is.
Of course.
But is that going to be the case in 5 years if they don't have as much search, if people trust Google less? So as soon as you have a channel that's working in marketing, you really have to jump on it as you go. If you have word of mouth and you're good, putting something where you can showcase that expertise. So you maybe have a website that doesn't sell so much, it shows all the press and stuff you do. And then there's public relations, but it's hit or miss. And a lot of agencies, and this goes with anything, there's a lot of great agencies, small team, they're at a position they could focus in on your thing for 6 months to 2 years. Then there's agencies where they hired a bunch of people to get the job done. Now the big job's over and they're not giving the proper attention to each client. There's a market advantage to somebody going with Tony Ortiz, the designer, versus an agency if they want that control and my availability, for lack of a better term.
A little more of a personal touch than the larger company. No, I hear you with that because the one marketing firm that we had hired at my one brokerage firm, we clearly were not the only client that they had. So it was a huge difference from when I had an in-house marketing team to hiring one, because sometimes I was 2 weeks out going, where is my OM? I listed this property 2 weeks ago. I need my marketing material. We're backed up. Great. But you have, you still have to do your job. I don't care if you're up till midnight. Sorry. Especially with real estate, it's the timing is of the essence.
And I've never told anyone you're not my only client.
You get that a lot with the marketing firms.
I may throw a little thing in where I'll say, hey, I have the other line. I'll call them back. What'd you have to say? And people are usually oh, I get it. And then, second time in the conversation, I'm like, look, I want to talk, but let's push something. I mean, even for friends, when we have our conversations, they're usually, well, let's try tomorrow. And it might take 2-3 days just to get to a 10-minute phone call. But I enjoy the conversation. I enjoy this. I mean, this is why I get into it. This is a love. Do I want to pass podcasting down to my son? I don't know. If he shows some interest, I'll show him the ropes. But for the most part, he wants to carve his own path out, and I'm okay with that. He's like I did music. He does music. He wants to take it further with singing, whereas I didn't. He's wildly talented, and he knows it. But I think he has a couple years until he's like, oh, man, there's a lot of talented people. I tell them now, like when you're 15, 16, spend the time that you have to do the thing you love. It may not make a ton of money, you know, but I feel like
even if it doesn't work out, you know, at least you got to do it and you could say you did it, you know?
I don't feel like people go into design for money. I feel like if you think of the percentage of artists that are like at the top, I mean, there's digital artists now. I don't know. I'm not in the fine art world. I know there's still money in it, but nobody aspires to be. Nobody says, you know, I love engineering, but I'm going to be a fine artist because there's money and one day I'm going to have my stuff for 1,500 years on someone's wall.
It's pure luck. It's all the planets have to align. I mean, I'm an artist. I sold my art in the past. Most of my stuff was commissioned, but it's not. And all my friends are like, oh, why don't you do it again? Because I don't have time because I'm paying bills right now.
For sure.
I would love to. I have 3 canvases in my house that have been sitting there for 5 years, you know, and I just don't have the time to do it. So yeah, I mean, it's literally got to be a hit. You know, there's got to just. You look at some art on the walls and you just shake your head and you wonder why that's worth $10,000.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and you know what you can do, right? So I've looked at some stuff going, oh, my work's better than that. And I've made thousands of dollars, but I didn't sell my $10,000 piece, you know? It's the same thing with like Jaden's photography. She has some amazing pieces, but you know, it's got to be like the right person at the right time that sees it.
Yeah.
The Kendrick halftime, and I usually don't go on current events at all.
Oh
but
my gosh!
The shot for somebody got a shot. It was a great shot. Was it the best concert shot I've ever seen? No, definitely not. Even there were some things with the coloring where I was like, okay, but the person picked up a camera because they liked Kendrick Lamar and said one day they would photograph him. So now the picture comes with a story where this was the precipice of their whole career. And I'm like, okay, so I don't know. It went viral and everyone's like, well, I want to buy a print. Maybe you kind of can run an auction off for something that worked for you, but people don't look at how many iterations things go for. I mean, you're pretty much engineering. I mean, when you are doing custom pieces, I'm sure you don't just draw it up and build it and it's perfect. I don't know. I mean, what is that like? Or even like installing window vinyls, like I don't know what kind of mistakes you can run into, but I just have to imagine things go through conversations, iterations. You have to recut it.
Of course.
You have to, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely mistakes, but we actually do mostly hand drawings for the most part, just because everyone's old school. You know, we got old guys that still work and come to the office every day, and we just go from drawing, we build. And what we try and do to prevent mistakes like that, as you know, in any business, you learn how to avoid mistakes over time, is we'll have the designer come, you know, to the shop one of the days. We even have the client come sometimes. And before we put the final upholstery on, before we put the fabric on, and definitely before we have it sent out, we make sure that it fits. We double check everything. We make sure the client likes the feel of it. They like how their body compresses into a couch, for example. And if the foam is the right way, there's like 30 different types of foams you could use, you know, with different like the porosity and this and that. It's like, there's so many different things, but you know, mistakes are inevitable. It happens. We've had jobs where we sent you know, a banquette with the wrong color. You know, we put the wrong fabric on, we sent it out, and it happens. You know, we get a call back, and they're like, you know, you guys got the wrong color, and you know, and then there's 2 ways you could go about that. You could brush it off and say, whatever, you know, we already got the money, like whatever. Or you know, you can go back, you could fix it, which is what we did. You know, we went back. It cost us, you know, we lost profit there, obviously. You know, we had to send our guys. We had to buy the fabric again. You know, fabric is expensive too.
For sure.
But what that led to is them recommending us to somebody else, and we made, you know, double the money that we did at that point in time.
Absolutely.
Just because we went back and we were the you know, we want it to stay, you know, as a good business. People, you know, people think about that stuff. Just like restaurants, people say the atmosphere is good, recommend to their buddy, you know, you go to the restaurant. It's the same thing with any type of service business or,
you know, it's
you know,
and I'm
business.
glad that you touched on that because it's something that I talk about with my colleagues often. There's nothing worse than someone that calls himself a professional and they cannot admit they made a mistake or they can't admit that they don't know. I made my way in this business by people. I didn't know anything near what I know now when I started, clearly. And I had a lot of questions coming at me with clients. I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, I have no clue. I'll get back to you. I would say it in a more eloquent manner of I will get that answer for you.
You know, we have to
in my head going, I've got no clue what they're even talking about. Sometimes I had to look stuff up like what does that mean? And I just but you know, it was like fake it till you make it kind of thing.
Of course.
For sure.
But I never pretended that I knew and I never gave them an answer just to make it sound good. And even today, you know, if I make a mistake, I made a mistake on a contract yesterday. You know,
what the difference
I
is?
saw it and I did. I called them like, hey, I just noticed I made this mistake. You know, we need to correct this.
The difference is, even if, let's say you made a mistake or you didn't understand something, I could just imagine what you did is you went back and you learned it and you mastered it. So the next time that question comes up, it's, you know, second to none. You know, that's the difference between somebody who doesn't care and the difference between somebody who might not be as knowledgeable, but has that ambition and that, you know, the passion for doing, you know, what it is. And then, you know, the next time that comes up,
I gotta be real with you. I've been in commercial meetings that, I mean, people are using acronyms and different things, you know, and they're all having this conversation. I got my phone on their table Googling what does this mean in commercial real estate.
Everybody's done that.
You know, so that I know what they're talking about. Yeah. And it's fine. And again, I have no problem. It's kind of like if you have a doctor, right? You're having surgery for something. If your doctor doesn't know, you don't want them to pretend they know and just kind of do something that might look good. You want them, you know, you want a doctor that says, you know what? I don't understand your symptoms. I don't know what's going on with you. Maybe you go talk to this specialist or, you know, give you ideas. And it's the same thing in any business.
And the good thing is too, when you know a lot of people in business, if we can't do it, somebody else we know can. You know, somebody came to us for, I don't know, an acrylic table. We're not a plastic shop, but we know a plastic shop guy. You know, we bring them business and it kind of just goes back and forth. You know, you don't want to, you know, there's like that one tale that everyone tells, like, you know, don't, you know, you grab all the business you could find and you're going to end up losing business because you're not able to fulfill your requirements. Just like if Lisa says, if I tell Lisa, you know, we have a house for sale and she's got 10 houses already for sale and, you know, she might take it because, you know, you want to take it. There's an extra house. It's an opportunity. But if you can't deliver for the client, you know, I know Lisa's a shark, by the way, for everyone listening. She's like the best real estate, you know, person around. She knows her way around everything and just her personality, her skills, great. But, you know, you want to look after the client. That's what, you know, people will admire you for. Cause, you know, even with us, you know, when you represented us, you know, you're there, you're on the ball, you're calling me every day. You're calling me more than I'm calling you. You know what I mean? You're asking me questions, making sure everything's okay. Even, you know, you were traveling and stuff. You were there, you know, texting me, emailing every day, just making sure you're on the ball. And that's just what it is. You know, you have to be there for the client, really, you know? Well,
it's funny. And to your point, literally, as you and I are walking in this room, you're laughing at it. I was doing a voice to text to a potential client, and it's an asset that just, I don't have I hate to say I don't have the time for it, but it was just something that I'm not going to be able to give him the attention on. And I literally, that's not, you're laughing at me because I said, I'm not the best person for this. And, you know, I can't do you justice. However, but this is where you need to go. Like, this is who you need to call. Because I could totally take it and make a few bucks. But I know for a fact I'm not going to be able to do what he needs done.
Right.
I do it all the time, and I do it back and forth with other.
Yeah.
I mean, not a lot, but I've had logo designs where somebody says, just for whatever reason, actually, Rachel's referred me logo. You know Rachel.
Yeah.
We've you know where it is when someone doesn't feel threatened, like you're trying to take their trade secrets or do anything like this. People are like, okay, you have a business, you have integrity, and clients will wait too. Like that's one thing we lost out on. Do you remember, like, if he said it was going to take 7 to 10 days or even 3 months? I mean, waiting lists were insane for custom crafted stuff. You know,
they were like 6 months out, everybody. So
yeah. And
kitchens, like custom kitchens. You're looking at even a big factory bigger than us. You're looking at 6 months. You know, if you're doing a full custom kitchen, you know, the client better not walk in, you know, right after the house is done, asking for a kitchen. You know, it's not going to happen.
That's crazy.
Yeah. You know,
6 months.
Rachel's really good at, you brought her up. I mean, she's done that. I've seen her doing that a lot in her career. Like since I've met her, if she doesn't have the time for it, because she's just so backed up with work, she will be completely honest with you. Yeah. I mean, she even did it with my event, you know, and we'll get into talking about my event as well. But Jaden actually took over a lot of stuff that Rachel originally wanted to do, but then her business picked up and she just physically didn't have the time. And she was, so she called me and said, hey, can Jaden pick this up for me? Can she do this?
And you know what happens too? You start off with, let's say you pick up a small job, you know, whether it's a small house or a small project or a small home, whatever, you know, and then you get a call the next day. All right, we have a $5 million building for sale. And now you're like kind of in a tough spot because you know, you could have gotten the bigger job. So it's always good to, you know, be grounded, I guess, whenever you're speaking to somebody and, you know, tell them the truth, you know?
Well, that, and, you know, you have to surround yourself with the right people, right? So kind of like where Jaden was able to pick up the slack for Rachel. Rachel didn't just drop it and say, I'm not doing this. Good luck. Have a good day. Go
find somebody.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I built my career. I built my career with the right people around me. So I have, even if they're not in my office, I have agents that I've worked with. I have residential agents that I work with, that if I don't have time to pick up that house, that one of my other, like, so clients like yourself, you know, if you're going to move out here, you're going to call me and say, hey, do you want to help me find a house? If I'm really swamped with larger projects, I'm going to find you a really good residential agent. I'm not going to just say no.
You know, Can't do it. Too busy right now.
See, you have to have a backup plan.
I hate when you call somebody. I'm sure everyone has experiences. You call somebody for something and they're just so nasty on the phone. They're just like, no, we can't help you, or no, call back again. Like, I'm not going to call you back after that. Like, you know, it's just a simple thing. Like, no, I'm sorry. Like, you know, we'll try our best. This, and at least say something like that. And you know, you might get a call back. But for me, when people are nasty like that, that's like a, you know, never talking to you again. Type of thing, you know,
you got to protect your energy.
This is like a total side story, but off of that, I was helping a buddy find a tire the other day. And he has a really rare tire. So we were going to a bunch of places, calling a bunch of places. And there were people that were like, oh, we don't have it. That's it. And then I had some people that are like, okay, we don't have it. But maybe if you go like down the street, there's this place. Or maybe if you call this place, they might have it. And they're like, good luck. Like, let us know if you need anything, like call back. And some people, like the one person told me they were going to call me back and then they just never did. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm just waiting. So I like the people that are like, okay, we don't have it, but we're going to give you somebody who might. Right. Because they're not just like worried about their own business.
Exactly.
But Lisa, you do a lot of philanthropy outside of commercial bossing.
Yeah, I do.
So what do you got? What are you working on now?
Okay, so this year, it's the Strength and Love Classic is the name of my organization. And this year we're switching gears a little bit. I've partnered with the Exodus Road out of Colorado Springs. They're actually in 5 different countries and they are out there helping prevent human trafficking. They also do search and rescue. They recently launched an education program called Influenced. So it's influenced with a D on the end, .org is the website for that. And what I'm doing this year with my celebrity casino event is I'm raising funds to physically bring their team to the Valley to launch an education program here.
That's
and get them into hopefully all of the school districts to educate the children, educate the parents, and then also get in as many hotels as I can, the hotel groups, so they can educate the staff there, like what to look for, what to do when you see it. Because
I didn't even think of that.
Well, and what a lot of people don't realize is what a huge hub the Lehigh Valley is for human trafficking. Mostly, you know, they bring them in on containers through New York, We have all our warehousing up and down. And I'm not saying they're all doing it, but there are some doing it. And I'm hoping it's not my clients because I do that warehousing.
Oh, man.
They bring them in on containers. They're storing them here. I forget who told me, but somebody was telling me that they sell a lot of these people out in Lancaster because it's even quieter than here. But there's a lot of people being kidnapped between here and up through the mountains, up through like Wilkes-Barre, Hazleton, Scranton area. But this is what's happening. And this is why I'm bringing them to the Valley to educate on the grooming of it. Some of these people will take 2-3 years to groom a child to get them to leave on their own accord and meet them. And then we never hear from them again. And it's pretty terrifying. So, and I've been fortunate enough to meet a few women in the past month that were trafficked, and have been, have recovered from that. And they have their own organizations as well. But they're, it takes a village. So we're all speaking about it and they're helping me do different things with my event. Very excited about it this year because I'm super excited to launch this education program here. If we can squash it in the Valley as much as we can, it will squash a lot of it throughout the entire nation. And it's crazy to think that because it's the Lehigh Valley. People just don't realize how bad it is here. And even if it's just a pass through, it's still a pass through.
Yeah, if you can get awareness, no, that's great. It's a big battle. It's a huge battle. I mean, it's worth it. So thank you for that information. I had no idea besides our calls off mic how much, because it's not out in the open.
Well, no,
you know
of course
not. Like it's not a drug you can smell or people act different. It's like,
no, and you constantly see, missing children, or you're seeing on
all the time. Yeah.
On the digital boards, watch for this car because we believe they have this child. And it's not always the stranger that you don't know. It could be your father, your uncle,
Yeah,
my children and I know
crazy?
some young girls, that were trafficked. There's a young girl that's trafficked by her father, another one that was almost trafficked by her father. Wow. And it's, it's terrifying when you see it, and it is in your backyard. Yeah. I mean, it's literally in your backyard.
Yeah, nowadays you got to even my mom is even the people we know that we've lived next to for years, she always has that second sense that you never know when somebody, goes nuts one day and tries to break in and this or that, you really never know. No,
it's terrifying. It's
crazy,
a very
right?
scary thing. And so in my mind, I think
it's worse than it has been, years ago. What do you think?
I don't know if it's getting worse or if it's just being talked about. I mean, it's similar to domestic abuse.
Yeah,
domestic abuse isn't getting worse. People are just finally talking about it.
Right.
Back in the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, nobody talked about it because nobody wanted to do anything about it.
Yeah.
I had a hard time in court, when my kids were little, because there were no bruises. There was no marks.
Socials, again, for that, just so everybody at home, can hear it again while I'm away. Plug the socials, plug the websites again. Everybody needs to follow these. Very important.
So, and I'm going to do a shout out to James too, because James's company is not even local. And they came in, they sponsored last year. They were a pretty large sponsor, and they drove in from New York, to be at my event.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're going to do it again. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's strength. And with the letter N, strengthandlove.org is our website. We are currently out there looking for sponsors. It's the most important thing right now to have so that we can actually throw the event, because I do have expenses that I have to cover, and to be able to go out and get my celebrities.
What celebrities are coming yet or not yet?
I mean, we will have several, that were here last year.
Okay.
My actors, my Sopranos actors that were here last year, I've been talking to them. Just had a phone call with Steve Stanilis the other day, and he's very excited.
Yeah, I liked him a lot.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
His podcast is great.
He's a great guy, and he's very excited about this year, and he's got some exciting things happening this year in his own career and people that he's working with. So that was, he commented on that. He said, I'm really excited with the people I'm working with, and I'm going to start talking to see who else I can get to come out. So I don't really know, who else I'll be having. But it's getting interesting with some of the conversations that are happening, and different celebrities that are actually hearing about it, which is funny to me. It's just interesting, and some larger celebrities that are trying, that say, we would love to be part of this. It's just always a matter of like, are they filming? Are they able to go? Because
What's
they're
the
trying to
time
go,
look like?
they want to go around their managers so they don't have to pay them.
Right.
Yeah, they'd rather volunteer their time.
Yeah, of course.
And then Jaden does all of our photography, and that's kind of one way I was helping her get started, and she loves it so much. So she's already bought cameras and lenses to kind of pursue her photography side of it as well.
I also add, because you just said the website, but there's also Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn that we're trying to build that up. So you just look up Strength and Love Classic on either of those platforms.
That's with the N in
as
the
well.
middle. Strength
with
and
an
Love
and apostrophe.
Classic.
I'll be able to put them up in post. I'll be able to do it for the people watching in, for everybody listening in. I don't think I attract listeners that don't know how to spell strength or love, but STRENGTHN with the apostrophe, LOVE, classic. Strength and Love Classic. So definitely check that out.
Absolutely.
So we just went over an hour. If we want to start kind of landing the planes, anything you guys want to shout out, we can just piggyback off
Shout out
that.
to you, Tony, for hosting us.
Oh man, thanks. I appreciate it. I just, I'm glad I get to wake up another day and do what I love.
Right.
And even when I was talking about posting stuff to social, it's not that I don't have the time, but I'm afraid that I'm going to be in that position where somebody calls and says, hey, I want to, people want me to do this for their shows. And I just get to do what I love and not really think about too much else. So I pray every night, like, thank you for giving me the rabbit hole to learn. You're going to have a ton of fun with lenses and cameras. And just the only tip I could say with that is get what you need and be satisfied with the camera you have. And remember that we have beautiful photos from 10, 20 years ago, and they didn't have mirrorless cameras. I got a used camera from somebody, because my camera that I have is very slow and sad, and you can't even change the lens. It's just one lens, Yeah. No, you want to get out of that.
Yeah.
But.
So I got this one camera body for $200 from somebody, and he used it for years. And I got a lens, literally we were going to New York to shoot, I could take behind the scenes shots of this one TV show. And
you can plug it. Go ahead.
Gravesend.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was really cool. But I got the camera. I didn't even have a lens for it. On the drive there, we stopped at a Target that had it, and I got a lens. I was like, okay, this is my next purchase.
Oh yeah. I was calling Polly, going, we're gonna just be a few minutes late. We just have to take a quick stop.
I was like, I can't say I'm not prepared and don't even have a camera lens.
No, of course not. Yeah.
Of course, now he's gonna see this and he's gonna giggle.
It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah, it's out of the box now.
And then recently, I just bought another camera lens, because that one's really zoomed in, so I needed one for because I want to do real estate photography and all that.
You need the 0.5
or something.
Yeah, so any residential or commercial real estate agents out there, she's looking into doing
Drop your
photography.
social.
It's JLion_photography on Instagram.
There you go.
And that's Lion with a Y.
Yes, Lion with a Y.
Cool. And that's all you have is the Instagram?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to give your Facebook or anything like that out if you
that's
have
my
one.
photography account.
Instagram's the big hit now for. Oh, sorry. Instagram's the big hit now for all these things like that, photography, real estate.
Especially because I think
it's all Instagram nowadays.
Yeah, because when you look at it, you see everything.
You get to see,
Facebook,
page,
you got to really scroll and try and find stuff.
sure.
But Instagram, it's all laid out, so it's kind of like just showing off your work. It's like a portfolio.
Right.
Yeah.
Interior designers always have their projects on Instagram and stuff like that.
Well, I'm gonna have you guys help me out with Instagram when I am finally accepting projects again, because I know it's great for me. It's just
Instagram's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been in a good position for a long time. And it kind of adds to the mystique when you're just the I know a guy and you have a reputation online, but nobody ever sees you asking for work. And you I had a blessing to speak at Lehigh Valley Elite Network as a podcast consultant last week. And I don't have to tell any of them, unless they're listening, that this is my hobby. This is I train jujitsu more than I podcast, but it's a very outward facing thing. So I'm glad I could have you guys on as a guest. James, do you want to plug your socials?
So we're at home in tag 1 on Instagram. And then my Instagram is at the Beakman, BEAKMAN group. There you go. That's the Instagram. And we're on LinkedIn and everything. We have websites. Check out our work. Feel free to call me for whatever opportunity. If you're looking for work too, feel free to call. Looking for some upholsterers right now. Just had somebody go back to Italy. So we need an upholsterer if there's anybody out there.
A good one. A good one. This is an artisan.
We've had so many people come in and like, it's just, we couldn't hire them. It's just, they won't be able to meet the quotas that we need to get done. Like one of our guys, he'll do like, I don't know we're about to end, but he'll do like 30 chairs in one day.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even understand how, but just goes back, finding good people is tough. But yeah, that's sense. Us, follow,
cool.
Interact.
Cool. And then you guys can find me at Tio the Designer at all socials, tiothedesigner.com. If we do this as a bonus episode for I Will Not Lose, it's iwillnotlosepodcast.com, and that'll connect you to any one of the players. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Google, Apple. It's easier to say what we're not. I don't think I'm on GeoSavan, so I'm sorry if you're in India. But other than that, cool. Anybody have anything else? We're at an hour 6. Sweet, man. Great. Thank you again for listening.
Thanks, Tony.
Peace.